that I wanted to talk about mostly is about giving God thanks. And oftentimes we have issues in our lives that we deem to be bad or troublesome or turbulent in our lives, and we don't take the time to thank God for everything. In the Song of Solomon, we have the writer saying, "Let the cold east wind and the warm west wind blow upon us." That means that God, whatever you need to make sure that I flourish in the time and in the way that you would have me to flourish, God, you do it. If it's an adversity that needs to come upon me to show me one of two things. One, whether or not I have something that I need to lay before God, or two, that I'm stronger than I thought I was. And oftentimes we forget to give God thanks. The Bible tells us we're supposed to thank Him in everything. That's His will for our life. And we go and we praise God. Okay, God, I thank you for waking me up this morning, and I thank you for the breath of life that I have in me, and I thank you for my children and my husband and my wife and anything else. But do we want to thank God when we fall down? Are we willing to thank God for those things that we deem hard in our lives? And we get to a place where we want to just be appreciative of what is good, but we need that cutting that happens. The pain that happens in growing in the Lord is oftentimes not something that we welcome, but it's what God says. He says, thank me for it. Because when we focus on God and what God has for us, it takes our focus off of the enemy and off the world and all things of that nature. And we get to a place where we need to magnify God over everything else. He is bigger than every circumstance that we can ever encounter. He is bigger than any debt that we have. He is bigger than an unsaved loved one. He is bigger than an abusive relationship. He is bigger than a death of any nature in our lives. And so we need to take the time today and every day to give God the glory in our lives. And when we come to a place, and we say, God, okay, it's time for me to be broken, are we going to thank God during those consecration times? I heard you say, one of the hosts say that, we need to consecrate and we need to turn our plates down. And consecration means we have to separate ourselves from those things that we have familiarized ourselves with in our daily lives. And so we go before the Lord and we say, okay, God, let's take this thing, me and you, let's go here. And so we get to that place, and I remember one of my consecrations in the past, and I said, okay, it's going to be 7 days, and I believe the Lord. That was a short one, and I said, okay, God, what am I going to do? And God said, you make sure that everything that you have put before me, we're going to turn that thing over to the Lord because I'm supposed to be first in your life. And I said, okay, well, after I do that the first 3 days, and what's going to happen afterwards, God? And as I went throughout the consecration, there was something every day that God brought before me that said, okay, this is something that you set up a little bit higher than it ought to be in your life. You've given this a little more place than you ought to have given into your life. And so I had to go before God, and I was crying, even on the seventh day, crying out to God and saying, who would have known that a called vessel of yours, who prays every day, who reads every day, will find something in my heart that was not supposed to be there, a place, I'm giving a place where God was supposed to be. And so as we take this time and we go throughout the course of this season that God has in our lives, and all of us are not in the same season, so we have to be careful not to watch another saint's life and say, okay, well, they're seeming to go well, or they're seemingly going bad, and judge what's happening with them or compare what's going on with us. Be hopeful and expectant. Be hopeful and expectant.